The first speaker is Lydia Wilson. She just finished her master's in medical physics here at LSU. She's got a fellowship to spend the next year in Croatia doing more work, and is then going on to do, she'll come back, it's a Fulbright, she'll come back from that in a year, and she's going to go to MD Anderson and start a PhD program. And she's going to tell you all about Zumba and medical physics.
Perfect combination. All right, everyone can see that? Yes. So, as he said, I'm Lydia Wilson, and I am many things throughout the day. By day, I am a grad student in medical physics here. By night, I'm a fitness instructor. On the weekends, I'm an oboist in the community band, and also on Sundays, I'm a volunteer in the local dog shelter. So, grad school is one of the many things I do, but it definitely doesn't define my life here at LSU. For those of you who don't know, medical physics is the application of ionizing and non-ionizing radiation in medicine and healthcare, which has kind of two branches to it. There's diagnostic, which has to do with X-ray, CT, MRI, ultrasound, all those kinds of imaging things. And then there's therapy, which is the branch that I'm more involved in, and that has to do with using radiation as a form of cancer treatment. So, I'm currently a third year in the master's program here, which means that I'm finishing up my master's thesis right now in 1 week, so wish me luck. So basically, when we treat patients with radiation, first of all, the focus of my thesis is more on improving the quality of life of our cancer patients in the long term after we treat them. So when we treat them with radiation, we want to deliver a small dose or a large dose of radiation to a small volume of the patient that contains the disease site. And that's known as the therapeutic dose. And in this image here, this represents a patient lying on a treatment couch, and then this is the treatment machine below them. And this red beam represents the therapeutic dose that you can see is being exposed to a relatively small volume of the patient. However, whenever we do this, we also expose the patient to a much lower level of stray radiation that goes on the whole body. And that's represented by this blue haze that you can see is just bathing the patient in unwanted dose. And the reason that we care about the stray radiation is because it can cause numerous late effects, including second malignancy, fertility complications, cardiac toxicity, and a long list of other things. And the reason I underline late is because these are things that happen months or years after the treatment. So in the past, our patients weren't really living long enough to see these effects, and if they were, then they were still considered lucky to have made it that long. But now, thankfully, we've gotten relatively good at treating cancer, and more of our patients are living long enough and seeing these late effects. So now we need to start focusing on giving our patients long, healthy lives, and not just long lives full of more complications, which is where I come into play. So right now, when we plan our treatments, we calculate the dose that we're going to deliver to the patient. And the problem is that these programs that calculate that dose are only calculating the dose inside of the treatment field where we're needing to give them dose. So that's represented by this plot here, which is the magnitude of the dose as a function of position. So this is a little diagram here of how this measurement was taken. You have the treatment field, which was a block, and then you put the detector right at the center of the field, and then you scan it outside of the field, across the field edge, which would be right here, into far outside of the field. And this is what you would see. So this is starting at the center of the field. The red line is the measured dose profile. And you can see this where you're inside of the treatment field. This is the field edge. And then this is a log scale, just to point out really quickly. So you can see even after you get outside of the field, there's still a small but non-negligible amount of dose that we're measuring that is definitely being deposited. But this blue dotted line is representing what the treatment planning system calculates. So right now it's doing a really good job of calculating inside of the treatment field. It finds the field edge, but then you can see a little bit outside of the treatment field, it drops off. And the reason the line stops here is because after that point, it actually reports 0 dose deposition. But you can see our measurements show that there is still a lot of dose being deposited outside of the treatment field. So that's where my work came in, and we developed a physics-based model that would calculate the dose far outside of the treatment field. And that's represented by this purple dashed line. So you can see our model that we developed calculates the dose inside of the field, it finds the field edge, and then it even continues to calculate the dose at much greater accuracy than the treatment planning system, all the way out to the full distance that we had our measurements. So hopefully using this, now we'll be able to know what those small doses are that we're delivering to our patients and be able to predict what late effects we might be causing and possibly be able to avoid causing them in the first place, so we can give our patients long and happy lives after. So that's a little rundown on my research. And how did I get here? Well, I grew up in Chicago, Illinois. I graduated from high school there in 2005. I then went to UC Berkeley, go Bears. Graduated in 2009 with a BA in physics and a minor in music. And at that point, I never really planned to go to grad school. I didn't do any undergraduate research. Y'all are already ahead of the game. And I think probably as a result of that, I got a little burnt out on school at that point, and I love to travel, so I decided to take a year off and experience life a little bit. So experience life I did, and I spent a nice long year just globe-trotting and working minimum wage jobs, but let me tell you, nothing will motivate you to go back to school faster than having a degree in physics and spending your life making coffee. So, I started spending those long hours watching milk swirl, meditating on what it was that I originally liked about physics before I got a little burnt out, and then trying to figure out how I could turn that into a career. So during that time, I stumbled upon medical physics and started applying to programs and started here in 2010. And the really awesome thing about grad school is that it's definitely not just an extension of undergrad. It is completely different. It gets so specialized, and I think the reason that I got burnt out in undergrad is because I knew that I loved physics, but I spent so much of my time studying aspects of physics that didn't really inspire me that I lost enthusiasm. But here, every single class I've taken has been directly related to what I know I want to do with my life. And so it's really easy to stay excited and involved and motivated to do everything you need to do to be successful, and I love every minute of it. And in addition to that, being a grad student has allowed me to do all kinds of awesome things. So grad school is for cool kids. We're not all just sitting in the lab all day. So I got to go to a national conference where I got to meet all my idols in the field, which I never thought I would be someone to say I had physicist idols, but it happens to the best of us. And I this is a different society, national society, that I now have a poster going up in to present my research that I've done, which is kind of cool. But also being a grad student, you know, there are other perks. You still get holiday time for the most part. So I've gotten to travel a lot. This is me in Australia my first year. I can go skydiving on the weekends, which is pretty sweet. I spend my life getting paid to exercise, which you can't complain. So, I mean, life is good. You can't, you know, if I was in a job, I definitely wouldn't have the same freedom and mobility that I have as a grad student while still getting to do what I know I love. So what's on the horizon for me? As they mentioned, I am going to be going to Croatia on a Fulbright scholarship. And this was just a perfect way for me to combine two things that I love. Because I love to travel, so I can start feeling kind of tied down in one place. But I also found medical physics, and I don't want to just leave that. So this is the perfect way for me to combine the two. And just a little bit about that, I'll be leaving in late September. I'll be there for 9 months in the capital city of Zagreb, which is right in the center there. And I will be spending time in their cancer clinics researching the radiotherapy healthcare disparities. So the basis of the project is that they have similar cancer incidence rates to us, but their cancer mortality rate is about twice what ours is. So I'll be looking at different types of radiotherapy treatments, what they offer there, how they use them, how they do quality assurance on them, how they train their workers, and trying to draw comparisons between that and how we do it here, and hopefully trying to find simple and cheap ways that they can improve their radiotherapy and hopefully lower their cancer mortality rates. So a little bit about, I'd like to tell you a little bit about what the Fulbright program is, because I think it's pretty awesome. It was started in 1946 by Senator Fulbright, and it called for the use of surplus war property to fund the promotion of international goodwill through the exchange of students in the field of education, culture, and science. So it's a really well-rounded award. It's not just for doing your research. And Senator Fulbright was a pretty awesome guy. I think he long course of history, having people who understand your thoughts is much greater security than another submarine. So they really are expecting us to go out and help, make a difference in the world, doing our research and sharing what we know with other countries. So the Fulbright program is the largest U.S. exchange program. It awards approximately 1,900 grants annually in all fields of study. And it operates in over 140 countries worldwide. I think last year they sent students to 155 countries, so you'd be pretty hard pressed to find a country that they weren't willing to send you to. And it is for pretty much everyone. The student grants, you can be a recent graduate, so you don't have to be in school when you're doing it. I'll be in between master's and PhD. You can be a master's or a doctoral candidate, so you can still, it can be something that helps you towards your doctoral or master's degree. And it's for young professionals, so if you don't have a PhD, and you have been working for less than 5 years in your field, you can get a Fulbright grant to fund research in that field. They also have other types of grants that are for people who have PhDs or have more than 5 years experience, and that is another type of grant that they still offer, so you're not like up in the list if you pass that checkpoint. But they have all kinds of awards for students. They have the Study and Research Grant, which is what I'll be doing. They have English teaching assistantships where you go and teach English for a year. They have Fulbright MTVU Awards, so if you're interested in music and culture and how they clash, then that would be an award for you. Fulbright Clinton Fellowship for public policy. They have travel grants, so that's not going to fund your life, but it'll get you there to go to a conference or just to visit a clinic or something, which is kind of cool. And then they also have supplemental grants, so if you get one of those other grants and you want to study a critical language, they have a Critical Language Enhancement Award that will fund your language study while you're there. And how I got into the Fulbright program was I first heard about it in a Croatian language class I was taking in college, where the teacher suggested it just as a way for us to continue to get funding to continue studying the language after we graduated, because it's kind of a hard language to find. And at the time, I thought it sounded cool, but like I said, I wasn't really planning on going to grad school. I didn't have any real research interests, so I just kind of tucked it away and thought, it'd be nice, but I don't really have any ideas right now. And then about a year and a half ago, I was starting to think more seriously about what I'd be doing after my master's degree. And to be honest, the way I see it, my life kind of ends after grad school. Couldn't tell. I mean, you get a job, you have no more vacation time, you're stuck in one place, you maybe get married, maybe you have kids, and definitely wasn't ready for that. So, at that point, that college Croatian teacher came back into mind, and I started brainstorming ways that I could turn my research interests into a way to travel. And long story short, I came up with a project proposal, which I wrote up and submitted to the Fulbright application, and was accepted. So they're funding my research project. For me, the really great thing about the Fulbright grant is that I don't have to be a student while I'm doing it, like I mentioned. So I didn't have to come up with a project that was going to fit into a PhD dissertation or a master's thesis. I didn't have to have an advisor here who was, it fit into what their research goals were. I could really just think about what I wanted to be doing, what was important to me, and go ahead and do that. So, but also, because I will be doing research in my field while I'm on it, I do expect it to be something that will only help my career. It's not like I'm just taking a year off and falling off the beaten path. And what the Fulbright is doing for me while I'm there is they pay for my flights to and from Croatia. I get a very generous monthly stipend to do my research and live a little. And basically the only thing I need to do for 9 months is focus on this research that is very important to me, that I feel very passionately about. And another thing that is really great about the Fulbright program is that they really place equal emphasis on both your project and your studies that you're doing, but also on cultural exchange. So they really want you to go out and integrate into that society and learn from them and share positive aspects of American culture with this other culture that you're in, and hopefully bring back positive aspects of their culture to America. So it really is a real exchange program, and I'm really excited to get started on all of that. And what's for me a bit further on the horizon is I deferred my PhD studies at UT Houston MD Anderson, and I'll be starting there in fall 2014 for a PhD in medical physics. And while there, I'm hoping to continue focusing on what I call kind of more human aspects of radiotherapy and improving the quality of life of our patients, and I'd like to focus on the pediatric population. And then, in general,